Harbaugh isn't going to be like, oh, this is working, but let's try to air it out. Like, no, it's like, okay, you can't stop us. The other one is obviously TCU and Michigan. That'll be at 4:00 earlier in the day on New Year's Eve, out in Arizona. I don't know what. I look at this game as Michigan's in a different spot this year than they were a year ago. They're really happy to make the playoffs last year, and they were staring at this double gauntlet of like, here's Georgia, then you get Alabama probably. I know a lot of Michigan fans who are they've already booked their flights and their hotels and everything for LA. I know that's not the program. They're taking it seriously, but totally different mentality here. Obviously, they should be favored. This will be the best team TCU's played. It's the best defense TCU's played, and all of that. And I guess the question is basically, can the Horned Frogs put together this dream against a much better defense and a much better rounded team of Michigan? Michigan's a 7.5 point favorite. Pat, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think TCU's up against it, and I think the one weak link there is just their defense. They have a very good offense, and they're well schemed. They've got a really good quarterback, a really good running back, some good receivers, but I just think defensively they're going to have a tough time handling what Michigan brings to the table. I think we saw Kansas State be able to run the ball, move the ball. And Michigan's offense is better than Kansas State. Several people have been able to move the ball against TCU. So I think physically it's going to be a tough matchup for them. Donovan Edwards has been on fire the last 2 games, 400 yards rushing. And if Jim Harbaugh can go in and say, look, we play our bread and butter football and you have success, TCU's got to pull some rabbits out of the hat. And I think just if this game starts unfolding that way, it could snowball to a degree. Now, TCU's defense has given up big plays. They give up, I think, over 5 yards per carry. Their wide receiver Quentin Johnston is excellent, but I'm telling you, the freshman DB Will Johnson for Michigan is really coming on. He's played really well as the season's gone on. 6'2", 194. He's big and long, like Quentin Johnston. I think he'll be able to match up well and have a good game. I'm not saying he's going to be covering him solo a bunch, but that's another factor. Michigan's just playing at a peak level right now, and that's trouble for TCU.
Yeah, TCU's defense, really is. This doesn't seem like a great matchup. Like you said, they're giving up like over 25 points a game. There was a stretch this year, like a 5-game stretch, I think, where 4 of the 5 games they gave up more than 31 points and 40 points here and there. I don't like the matchup at all. Playing such a physical team in Michigan that also can hit you deep. They have TCU feels like a team that probably should have more than one loss, right? I think it's 6 games. They led trailed by double digits in 6 games this year in the second half, and came back to win them all. I mean, kudos there, but at some point, that luck does kind of run out, and it did in their last game against Kansas State. And this just doesn't feel like a too competitive of a matchup. For the Horned Frogs, and Michigan just seems, again, just like Georgia, this Michigan team feels better offensively, like better than last year's team and more complete.
Yeah, I Michigan's problem is depth. I mean, like losing Blake Corum hurts, and can Edwards be a feature back? He's better when he's the second back and catching balls and stuff like that. But you got Edwards doing that. McCarthy played a little better. Against Ohio State. Maybe the bowl practices he keeps building. The receiving core had been somewhat of a disappointment this year, but there's some talent there. But I mean, again, like their defense is so good. Only one team, I said TCU's averaging 25 allowed a game. Only Maryland got over 25 against Michigan. And that game and the Illinois game are really the only got to make plays in the fourth. We'll know really quick if this game is over. If Michigan gets the ball and just cries out like a 7-minute drive in the first half, the game is over. It'll remind me of that Alabama Notre Dame game in the BCS title game. It's like 2 plays in, you're like, game over. I mean, if they just dominate the offensive line like that, it's over. You're not, because I remember that. You're like, Harbaugh isn't going to be like, oh, this is working, but let's try to air it out. No, it's like, okay, you can't stop us. I dare you. And if you can't, and we're going to keep hitting you and hitting you and hitting you, and we got more depth and more players and all that. So, so we're all picking Michigan here.
Yep.
Michigan win and cover.